A moment of irony, seized in Tehran. As Trump pressures Europe over Greenland, Iran says the EU is getting a taste of its own medicine. Abandoned once Washington walked away. Now sidelined again. From nuclear deals to territorial threats. Tehran mocks European outrage and delivers a warning. This is what US partnership looks like when interests change. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has accused Europe of facing the consequences of what he described as its earlier betrayal of Tehran, arguing that the continent is now being treated by the United States in much the same way it once treated Iran. In a post on X on January 20th, Araghchi said European governments were experiencing the blowback from their decision to abandon Iran after Washington withdrew from the 2015 nuclear agreement. Araghchi recalled how Britain, France, and Germany curtailed trade with Iran after the United States exited the deal in 2018, despite European assurances that they would uphold it. According to Araghchi, those same European states are now being subjected to unilateral pressure from Washington, including threats linked to Greenland, an autonomous territory of Denmark.
When the US violates an agreement signed with the EU barely 6 months ago, Ursula von der Leyen suddenly springs to action and insists that, in politics as in business, a deal is a deal, and that when counterparts shake hands, it must mean something.
Araghchi argued that such threats directly contradict an EU-US framework trade agreement reached last August, which set tariffs at 15% on European exports and 0% on certain US goods. The Iranian diplomat said Trump's latest stance amounted to Washington violating an agreement signed with the EU barely 6 months ago.
Case in point, Mr. Trump's threat to take over Greenland by any means, unlawful as it is under any conception of international law or even a rules-based order, could not happen to a more deserving continent.
Araghchi suggested that Europe's current predicament stemmed from its earlier decision to follow Washington's lead against Iran, rather than standing by its own commitments under the nuclear deal. The Iranian foreign minister also pointed to comments by Ursula von der Leyen, who reacted to Trump's Greenland threats by insisting that agreements must be honored. Amid escalating unrest in Iran, as protests turn violent and the US and Israel warn of renewed strikes, Araghchi said Tehran's stance has hardened since last year. In an opinion piece published in the Wall Street Journal, Araghchi wrote,
"Unlike the restraint Iran showed in June 2025, our powerful armed forces have no qualms about firing back with everything we have if we come under renewed attack."
Araghchi also blamed Washington for what he described as a missed diplomatic opportunity at the United Nations last September, saying US pressure on European states to invoke the snapback mechanism of the nuclear deal derailed talks and reimposed UN sanctions on Iran. Despite the hard-edged language, he insisted Iran's strategic preference remains unchanged, and they will always choose peace over war. For Tehran, the message is clear. Europe's current confrontation with Washington is being framed in Iran not as an anomaly, but as a familiar pattern, one that Iranian officials say they have already endured.